Hello everyone. Today we're going to be going over some 3D animation, how to get your animations from Magic of Voxel or wherever you get your 3D objects into Mixamo and then into Unity, and how to get them all hooked up and ready to go. So let's say you already followed the past videos and created a 3D object you're ready to animate. You're going to go to this website called Mixamo.com. It might ask you to log in or create an account. I just use my Google account. And then from here you can look through an entire catalog of free 3D character animations, or you can create your own, but that's beyond the scope of this class really. And then once you have something, I already have something made, so I'm going to go ahead and upload my character. And that is this object file here. When you export from Magic of Voxel or Blender, you should have a OBJ file. I'll just go through and show you the process. And just like this, it'll bring it up, and then you want to place these markers down about where your humanoid markers are. So my wrists, my elbows. This is just a zombie that I've made a while ago, and I'm bringing him in for this tutorial. The skeleton level of detail, this is a very, very low-res zombie, so the lowest level of detail. That's like the number of joints, that number. It's going to spin for a minute, and then after that we can go ahead and choose our animations. For this tutorial I'm going to use three. I'm going to use an idle animation, I'm going to use a dance animation, and I'll use a running animation. Okay, and in Unity we'll go through getting how to switch between those in script. It won't be too hard, trust me. Okay, that's our little preview. And now we get our zombie here doing this default dance. You can go ahead and look up whatever animations you like. I chose this one before, and it does have color, but the color we can drag and drop in on Unity, so it's not that big of a deal. You can download, click download. I already have it ready just to save time, but you download that, drop it into Unity. Here I have our sample scene with the files already. I have the idle, the dance, and the running animation ready to go. Okay. So with these, there's a few things we need to take care of first. I'm going to rename them, first of all. I'll call this one just Zombie Idle. I'll call this one Zombie Dance. And I'll call, this one's already called Zombie Running. Zombie Run. Okay. Now if you click right here, this scale factor, here, I guess I'll show you. If you drag and drop it in here, reset the transform, it's super small, you can't really see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply it by 50. And all your models might not be this small, but mine are for some reason. So you're going to make sure you do that on all of these. Make sure you hit apply. Okay. And then one more thing, if you click on this animation button, we're going to make sure we want these to be looping animations. Okay. If you have like attack swings or something like that, you're swinging a weapon, you might not want it to loop, but for these specifically we do. Okay. I'll just hide these for now. Okay, and now my character, he doesn't have any color on him, so I'm going to take my zombie file, and I had the material. You'll get it in Magic of Voxel too. I think it's this one. Yes. So this is the color file. You just drag and drop it. Hold on. Drag and drop it onto this unnamed, which is sort of the model for the character. And that's the zombie I just whipped up for this tutorial. Or I already had it and I decided to use it for this tutorial. Okay. I'll just rename this to zombie character. Okay. Now if I hit play, well, you can't see him because the camera is not pointed in the right direction, so let's change that. I'll flip that around, aim it down a little bit, bring it up. Okay, and just like that, our character is not moving, but we can see our character on the screen when we hit play, so we're getting somewhere. And now what we want to do is we want to add a component called animator. Okay, and now we need something called an animation controller, and to do that we can go right down here, create And where is it? Animator controller. And I'm just going to call it zombie controller for now. You're going to want one of these for each of the characters that you want to be animated. And I will drag and drop this into this box. And if I double click this, it'll open up the animator window. And yours might be like this, or it might be somewhere else. But I like mine to be up in these big windows here, so it's easy to mess with. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're actually, to move around this, you just use the middle mouse button here. You can scroll out too. I'm going to scroll out a little bit. And now we want to drag and drop these in here. I'm just going to expand these. The first one we're going to want is the idle. You're going to go over here to this Mixamo triangle thing here, this animation clip, and just drag and drop it in there. And as we do this, I'm going to rename them also. By default, they just called Mixamo.com. I'll call that one idle. I'll call this, what is this one? This one is the run. And this one is the dance. Okay. And you can see it's kind of self-explanatory, but it gets confusing at times. So entry, this is basically at the start of the game, what is the animator going to tell us to do? You see it has a little arrow pointing straight into idle, and if that's all you wanted, then we're done. So our character idles here, but I don't think it's actually going to repeat. We'll know in like 2 seconds. Okay, it is going to repeat, and that is because we enabled looping. I forgot. When I did this last time, I forgot to enable looping, and that's why it stopped, but we don't have that problem. Okay, so now we need to actually set transitions between all three of these. So I'm going to just leave idle right there, and you can stack this however you want, but this is just how I like to organize it. Just like that should be fine. And right-click, make transition. We're going to make transitions to and from all of these, and I'll do it backwards, because we want to be able to get to these states from each of these states, if you know what I mean. And once you get lots of animations, you might want to start using this Any State button, but we don't need to worry about that for now in this tutorial. So for each of these, we need to know, I'm going to disable exit time. And the reason for that is some of these animations, they loop, but they're like 10 seconds long. So let's say I'm idling and I press W and I want to run forward. I don't want to wait for the animation to finish until the animation actually starts running. So I'm going to disable exit time on all of these. Okay, and you see we get a little warning there. Don't worry about that. We're going to add conditions in a second. Okay, and now we need to go up here to parameters and add something. So how we're actually going to get these to switch is we're going to have a parameter, a bool, called doDance. You can call this something similar if you like, and doRun. Okay, and when these are set to true, then we want to run, and when doDance is set to true, we want to dance, and false, etc. Okay, but false is good for now because we want to idle. So when we're on idle and we want to run, you can sort of follow the logic yourself too. So when we're idling and we want to run, we want to make sure doRun is set to true. Okay, and when we're running and we stop running, we want to either idle or dance. So we want to make sure that doRun is false and also doDance is false. Okay? And now if we're running and we want to dance, we want to make sure doRun is false and doDance is true. And if we dance, do we want to idle or run? Let's say if we want to run, we need to make sure doDance is false, doRun is true. And if we're dancing and we want to idle, we need to make sure doDance is false and doRun is false. And if we're idling, okay, one more. If we're idling and we want to dance instead of run, we need to make sure doDance is true and doRun is false. I think I missed one. Yeah, right there. So idling and we run, doRun is true, doDance is false. Okay. And with that, all we have to do is actually write a script. And the script will be nice and easy. I'll expand these. Okay. Add controller, you should know how to add a script by now. SCR, new script. I'll just call this animation controller. Let's assume nothing else will be put onto the script. And I'll open it up. Okay, now we need to actually make a reference to our animator controller, so I will call it animator, and I'll call it, I guess, lowercase animator is fine. And in start, since this is a component that's already on our player here with the script, we don't need to actually create a public reference to it. We can, in the start, we can do animator equals get component. So this sort of saves on resources too, so it's nice to do this. Animator, just like that, call that function, and now it knows what we're talking about. And now here we're going to run a few if statements to detect when we're pressing buttons. We're going to say if input.get get key, get key down. This is the frame the user starts pressing the key. What button do we want for when we want to dance? Let's say space. Oh, oops. Input get button down key code dot space. Okay. What happens when we press space? Well, we want the animator dot set bool, which is a function. There's set float, set integer as well, if that was your parameter. But our parameter was a bool called do dance. So we're going to set do dance to true. Okay. Now if we press space, we're gonna do dance is gonna be enabled, and if we did the animation tree right, it should make our character dance. Let's go ahead and test that before we continue. I hope it works. Okay, we're idling. If I press space, we start dancing. Epic. Now I can press space as much as I want, nothing's gonna happen. Okay. But now let's finish the code. Let's say if, I'm not even going to rewrite it, I'm just going to copy it. If input.getKey, when do we want to run? Let's say, actually let's go back to idling first. Let's say B. Let's say if I press B, then we don't want to dance anymore. Okay, so I'll set do dance to false. And one more for when we run. Input.getKey down key code, let's say W for when we want to run forward. I'll say do dance equals true. And this time we're going to do something a little bit different. Normally when you're running, you don't just press the key and then you start running. You're only running for as long as you're holding down the key. So for that we want to use get key down as well as get key up. So if you're unfamiliar, get key up returns true during the frame the user releases the key. So the frame that we press it down, do run is set to true, and do run is set to false whenever we release the key. Okay, now let's see this in action. Okay, he's idling. I press space. Epic. Now if I press B, he should go back to idling. I can hold W, and I can release W. Let's say I'm dancing, and now I hold W. That didn't work. Okay, that's a problem. If I go to animator, well, we were dancing, and then we wanted to run. What's this say? When do dance is false. I guess we want run to override dance, don't we? So in that case, I'm going to actually delete this one, and let's try it again. Because we want to be able to run out of our dance. So let's say I'm dancing, and I can go back to idle. That's good. Now I can dance, and I can go to run. And now if I let go, we continue dancing. Okay. That's perfect. And let's say I want to just forget about dancing after we come from running. Even if we were dancing before I started running, you can make that the case just by ignoring this do dance here. Okay. And this one. Alright. So normally in your game you might want to actually make your character move forward, but that's basic stuff you learned in the first video. You would just implement this stuff on top of it, and now all of a sudden you have a fully animated character, or at least you have some basic animations. And so yeah, that's the basics for this tutorial. If you have any questions, like always, feel free to reach out to me. But yeah, that's it. Good luck on your midterms.